People who have worked the drive-thru. What's the weirdest thing you've seen in someone's car? Two guys naked on a bench seat. Driver made sure to tell me they weren't gay. My gym teacher. Drunk. He started eating the tacos at the drive-thru window. He was there for over 5 minutes. Just eating. I saw him the next day in school. We both acted like nothing happened. Dude had a full-on hanky-panky doll dressed up in his passenger seat. Sunglasses. Dress and even a hat. I couldn't even tell it was fake until I asked for their order. Co-worker and I looked at each other simultaneously and we both said, was that a hanky-panky doll? This is in a wealthy area of my city as well, so it was definitely a first. Only worked drive-thru for a year, but the weirdest thing I saw was an alpaca in a minivan. They asked at the window if they could order some apple slices for the alpaca. I just gave them 2 packs on the house. Had a guy consistently come through the drive-thru with his pee-pee out and showing the young girls running the windows. He would always order the same thing. Large mellow yellow, no ice. Always on a Sunday. And always wearing military fatigues. Then he stopped showing up for a bit. We called him Private Peters. As our little sign to call the cops if he showed up again. A month later we get an order for a large mellow yellow, no ice. So I decide to take over the window because had a 16-year-old running cash, and sure enough he hands me his money with his pee-pee in his other hand. We convinced the car in front of him to stay in the lane and we called the cops. He got suspicious and left, but they caught him and was charged. A car pulls up. And all 4 people are just completely naked. Just casually chilling. Not seen. But I heard a blowjob taking place over the headset. It was a location open 24/7, so we had to reset the tills for 10 minutes every evening at 11 PM so people would just sit in their car and wait. Most people don't realize that we could hear everything. The speakers don't turn off while the vehicle is there. Had a customer come through with a giant grandfather clock in the back seat. The thing was so huge it was sticking out the side window. Which just so happened to be on the left side of the car. Which meant dude couldn't get close enough to the window to reach his food and had to step out. Cursing the whole time. Someone pulled a gun on my brother because the salsa containers weren't completely full. You can get as many as you want for no extra charge. Someone threw a fish at me once. Didn't order anything. Just a drive-by fish attack. I worked at a Tim Hortons and once saw an old lady with like 50 cartons of eggs in her car. I made a joke saying, looks like you could make your own breakfast, and she got real straight-faced and said, oh honey, those aren't eggs. Still have zero clue what else you would store in egg cartons. 2 guys were hotboxing and decided to come to the drive-thru. They did not stop smoking even when they pulled up to the window. I swear a cloud of smoke rolled out the window when they lowered it to pay. They offered me a hit and I politely declined. Edit, for everyone asking. This was in mid-Michigan in 2005-ish. I was working the drive-thru at Burger King in a snowstorm. Driver orders a Coke with no ice. When I hand them the Coke, they empty it a bit. Break off a couple icicles hanging from the car. Put in the Coke. And drive off without saying a word. Eater, holy crap. What a way to wake up. Thank you. This is a recent headline from Arizona, where I live. Man, 70, was arrested with the body of his dead wife in his car after a stunned worker at a Cowles Jr. drive-thru in Arizona spotted him wearing only his underpants with the naked corpse upside down in the passenger seat. Guy pulls up. I look in the back seat and there's a dude with all 4 fingers wedged up this lady's vagina. She was not wearing anything below the waist. I had to double look just to make sure I wasn't crazy, and that is when the dude turned his head and gave me a dead stare into my eyes. Like he was trying to intimidate me. Very awkward and I did not know how to act. A woman drinking a tall boy of Budweiser. It was 5:30 in the morning at a Starbucks. There's also a guy that takes his 3 dogs for rides. They ride in buckled seats and wear goggles so the wind doesn't hurt their eyes. Edit to at, the lady drinking the beer was driving. Don't freaking drink and drive, guys. The entire car was filled with trash. Like legitimately up to ceiling in the back seat and up to shoulder height in the passenger seat. I was so stunned I nearly forgot to give them their food. I used to see someone come through with a lifelike mannequin in their passenger seat. I asked about it and turns out they did it to use the commuter lanes on the highway. You must have more than one person in the car or cop a fine. Either the guy sitting with a dog in his passenger seat and a coyote and a deer chilling in the back. Or the woman wearing just a bra. But that one is more traumatizing. One time I was with my mom when she went through a drive-thru. The car stalled at the window and wouldn't start. I looked at her and said, "So, wait for the food and then push?" She said yes. They came to the window with our order. We got everything situated. Then I hopped out and started pushing the car. It was a big boat of an Oldsmobile, so I had to push it in a way that made it look like I was sitting on the back bumper. The looks on the faces of the people in the window as I passed by were pretty damn funny. We ended up going inside the restaurant to wait for someone to pick us up. Someone who was working the drive-thru told us we could wait there as long as we needed to and they'd be happy to get us cups for the soda fountain. They checked on us more than once and we were only there for maybe half an hour. I grew up in a family that often didn't have a vehicle. And when we did have one, it usually left us stranded on a regular basis. This was just a frustrating inconvenience and the folks working in the restaurant were so nice and felt so bad for us. We were just happy to have a ride on the way and a building to wait in. The driver had a comically large dildo in the passenger seat. He'd buckled it in and put a hat on it. My little sister used to work at a local Wendy's. A woman came through the drive-thru one day with either a pet or a service animal. That animal happened to be a monkey. Had a drunk guy come through drive-thru. A cop car was in line right behind him. Told the cops about the drunk guy. He was blitzed and was going to kill someone. Cops said they knew as they were planning on pulling him over before he turned in and went to the drive-thru. They decided they were hungry and decided to get food too before pulling him over. They stayed at the back window and had us give them their food first so they could follow him out. Pulled him over in the parking lot. Was kind of entertaining. Does a naked man with bags from Burger King and Taco Bell already count as a thing? There was this woman that would come through and get a hot chocolate every day. Her name was Mary. Mary was an older gal in her 70s. Drove an early 90s Lincoln. Usually had some old tunes playing. And weighed 60 pounds. If that. She was always so happy and so nice. I always gave her drinks for free because it was always such a treat to see her and she was just so nice. I think she reminded me of Ems. Frizzle after she retires. She comes through and orders her usual. I said, "Mary, why are you always in such a good mood?" She smiles and waves me closer. I lean out of the drive-thru window and she says, "Really? Really good drugs?" She winks at me, turns her radio up, and cruises out of the parking lot. Mary is my hero. There was this really cute blonde girl that would always come through the drive-thru naked on Saturday nights. Every now and then she would have another friend with her. We always knew when it was her by the constant giggles coming from her car as she ordered. We always had weird customers. Being it was the world's largest McDonald's located in Orlando, Florida. An order for 88 Big Macs or 120 cheeseburgers was not out of the ordinary though. This girl used to come through with like 3 dogs. I finally asked her, "Do you have to feed these beasts?" And she explained that she just walks and grooms them. Well, one day she came through the drive-thru with like 15 dogs and she screams through the intercom, "My business finally took off and got a bunch of chicken tacos for them." Come to think of it, I think she may have been trying to flirt with me. Damn. There is one guy who drives a hearse. It was a car that ran well and he could afford it. So when a teenager pulls up to the window in his hearse you get a little shocked. I also saw someone with a chicken. Complete with a harness and leash. It was cute. Not sure if it counts as something weird. But I found out after marrying my wife that she would go to a certain Chick-fil-A location drive-thru almost every day before work. Turned out during the time she was going there I was working there and I ran the drive-thru 5-6 days a week and strictly in the mornings. So for about a year I saw my wife almost every day before I even met her. And didn't realize it till after being with her for years. Edit, marrying I did not actually disfigure my wife. And this was not an admission of guilt. Marring did not occur on my behalf, she is just clumsy and fell. I was working a McDonald's drive-thru in a small town in Michigan. This truck goes through, pays and pulls forward to get its meal. Then a chicken jumps out of the back. I yell for the next car in line to stop. But she looks confused and ends up running over the chicken. It's not dead but it's a wreck. She looks at me and we're both in tears. She says she has to and I say no. She puts it on reverse and backs over the chicken again. Another employees had to get a shovel and scoop up the dead chicken from the drive-thru. Oh, finally I have something. I worked at a McDonald's in a small town in Michigan. Think to stoplights, and when the car pulled up to the front window, they had a whole baby kangaroo in their lap. I don't know where they got that from or why. But the closest zoo was 2 hours away. This dude pulled up and his girlfriend or whatever was almost entirely naked on the seat next to him. Sleeping. When he pulled up, he saw my shocked expression. Pulled her thin jacket, the only thing on her body besides the seat belt, to cover her nipple and asked for some ketchup. He was shockingly casual. Some old dude getting a hand job and finished as I handed him the bag. These two ladies with tons of tattoos and cigarettes came through. Got their 2 McChickens. And as they were pulling away I saw there were balloons just crammed into the entire back half of the car. Just filled to the brim with balloons. Another time I was helping these 2 teen boys when I heard a quack from the back seat. That's the duck. One of them told me. Followed by a honk from the back. And that's the goose. It's worth noting that they had just left a football game and come straight to the drive-thru, so Lord only knows where the duck and goose were before that. I worked a drive-thru at Arby's and a D agent came through in his squad car. When he pulled up to the window and I handed him his food and he thanked me. Turned around into the criminal holding area and screamed, "Shut up before I break your nose." I was clearly mortified. Then he turned back to me and said, "Just kidding, there's nobody back there." Laughed. And drove off. I admit I have gone through the drive-thru with sheep in my backseat. So we have 2 really crazy drive-thru stories. My family owns a franchise of a fast food chain. My brother is taking the drive-thru order. Lots of muffled talking as though it's a group of people trying to decide what to order. Along with some shushing. Not unusual. Car pulls around to the window from the speaker. The trunk pops open and a guy jumps out and begins running like hell away. 4 guys in the car jump out after him. Tackle him in the street. Throw him back in the trunk and speed off. The other one wasn't so much what was in the car. But I was working drive-thru while a very large local parade that goes down the street in front of the restaurant was happening. Towards the end of the parade, a nice convertible comes crashing through the parking lot, taking out signs and the drive-thru menu board. Turns out they had stolen the donated car from the parade route and took it for a joyride through the parking lot. 4-foot hooker. Prepped and ready to go. It was either the 12-year-old driving or the lady in a right-hand drive car. The fact she had the audacity to get mad at me because I couldn't reach her money. Not really weird, but there was a very large woman, no judgment, who would come through covered in sweat. I assume because it was summer and she didn't have a C in her car. And she stored her money in her bra. So when she went to pay, you'd have to watch her pull soaking wet cash out from between her boobs and accept it from her without flinching. It also made me laugh when people would come through in $500 cars with $2,000 sound systems. A 50-year-old man with Down syndrome playing with his willy in the passenger seat while his aide picked up his meds. He made eye contact with me the entire time. Unfortunately, there's no climax to this story, no pun intended. Closed the window and didn't say a word. There's a time and place for everything. But gotta do what ya gotta do, I guess.
Hi there. Look, if you enjoyed the video, well, why not go ahead and hit that like and subscribe to Reddit Stories. In fact, if you want to see even more responses to this thread, well then, take a look. There's the link in the description below. And remember, show some love to those authors while you're there. And I look forward to seeing you next time.